This is part 2 of row level security. This video is going to focus more on how you make sure that a user is not able to access and see values that they are not authorized to see. So in the first video, we talked about how a user has authorities and how those authorities map to a dimension value that has an authority. In this video, I'm going to show you how we actually configure the application and why we configure it in the way that we do. So if I go over and I look at the secure XML Spring Bean definition file, here I have the secure query builder controller bean, and it has some model maps in here. It gets the document from the request. This is the XML document. It adds any sticky query definitions to that. And here's the piece that I want to show you here. This model map is a special piece of Java code that says for a query module, add authorized selected dimensions to the model map. If we go back over to our user interface, you'll notice that these are restricted dimension values that have an authority of LHD 1, 2, and 4 with this particular user. And you'll notice that they're selected already. Normally, when you select when you want something to be selected within a query module, you'll go enter in a selected dimension type of an entry into the section for your query module. This one is not done that way with that mechanism. It's actually the same mechanism, but it's an automated model map that helps out with that effort. And that's exactly what this little model map processor does right here. Is it says for the geo step, it has it references a dimension that's called geolocal health district, and it turns out that that geolocal health district has some authority values, some values that have an authority with them. And so what it does is it says this user is authorized to see these 3 geolocal health districts. I'm going to put them in, and I'm going to set the selected dimension value for those dimension values that this user has authority to see. And the reason that this needs to happen is because if the user did not select any of these values, let's say they selected all, and they go and they hit submit, if they don't group by, the population, the dataset population, or the denominator value will be based upon all local health districts. And that typically is not what users want to see. They need to see only the data set restricted to the local health districts that this user actually has privileges to see. And this model map is also applied not only, so for the query builder interface, I apply it to that just so that the user by default has these values selected. So what happens again if they choose all? Well, if we go over here and we look at the controller that handles the submit, you'll notice that the submit also does the same thing. It adds the authorized selected dimensions to the model map, and this happens as the actual user selections are being submitted before they are processed by IBIS-Q. And again, the reason this is necessary is because the user might select something that says all, and we don't want, we need to make sure that those filtered values are sent back to IBIS-Q. Otherwise, IBIS-Q will return the result based on the entire data set, and we don't want that. As a final check, when the result is going to be displayed to the user, there's a special model map processor that goes through the query module results, and it'll delete any unauthorized result record. And this could happen. It should never happen, but this is just one more catch to make sure that everything is is shown to the users that they have authorization for. If they are not authorized to see a particular dimension, we don't want to have them group by a geo and have all those data values come back. So just by some off chance, if IBISQ does return it, we want to make sure we clean these records out. Now, one thing I want to point out about security and row-level security in particular, normally security works on securing a URL request. This security has to work after the user is already had access to that page. So the normal filtering mechanism, like a voter that's used for Spring Security, cannot be used in securing this row level data. So these model maps, what they do is they've been coded that if they actually do see a value, or if a user, if let's say there's a dimension that has an authority that's needed, and all the user has is authorities for local health district, but they don't have authority for marital status, it will throw an error, and you'll actually get the access denied page, which is a good point to bring up for debugging and understanding when a user has access and when they don't have access. So again, let me state that again. If a user is going to, if you're going to secure 2 dimensions, okay, in this case, geolocal health district and mother marital status, the user, and if all of these values are protected, not associateds do not count. Not associateds are not protected. But if you have all the values with an authority on them, and the user does not have any of those authorities, they will get an access denied. Okay? So you have to have, if you have 3 dimensions that are protected, that user has to have needs to have at least one value within those 3 dimensions that they have authority to access. Otherwise, they will not be able to access that query module. And the mechanism that is used is the Spring Security's access denied exception. Even though this code is being handled by a model map processor, it'll throw a Spring Security exception, and because Spring Security is filter based, it will actually catch that exception and show the user the normal access denied screen. So I'll demonstrate that right now by changing the values here on mother marital status. So I'll just go in and change these values to any old value. And now save that file, and we will go back to our user interface. And because the query module is something that's cached in memory, I need to load the default definition. When I do this, I'm going to get the access denied page. Boom, there we go. And if I went and looked at the log, you would see that there was an access denied exception thrown. Again, for row level security, you have the user interface portion of it, and then you need to make sure that you always have the back-end part of this secured as well, and that is with these model map processors. If you use the standard secure XML that comes with the core, you're fine. It's going to be configured correctly. If you manage your own secure XML, change any of these bean configurations, you're going to need to make sure that you add these beans in there that do this special processing. One other thing that I wanted to point out is in the security file itself. And we do actually within the IBIS codebase have this query module dimension value loader. And this is wired up when you make selections. I'll show you where this filter is used. So there's the secure query handlers, but we want secure query result. This is just another mechanism to try and make sure that someone doesn't slip something in the back door to make a selection that they're not authorized to make. So whenever someone enters in any type of URL that is of the form secure query result and anything after that, it'll go through this filter chain, and this filter chain looks like this. right here that has an access decision manager that is the secure query result access decision manager, which is this definition right here, that has these voters. They have to be authenticated. They have to have the authorization role voter. This is the part that uses the metadata source and makes sure that the URL that they are requesting, that they have an authority. This is the query module, basically. This is limiting them to the query module. Again, when you do row-level security, you still have to protect the query module itself, and that's what this voter is doing right here. And then the last voter here is this query module dimension value voter. And what this does is this is the last resort. It goes through when someone makes a query result request. It goes through and it checks the dimensions that the user has specified and makes sure that they have the correct authority on those dimension values. If not, you'll get the access denied exception, and you'll get the user interface page that we showed just a minute ago that shows you the denied. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if this does not do an adequate job of explaining the basics of how row-level security works and what is missing or what is needed. And any feedback at all is always appreciated. If you have questions, please feel free to give me a call. Thanks.